Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz. Here going to be doing a review of the M6A2E1 Experimental, which is the Tier 8 American Premium Heavy Tank opposite to the T-34. Now, this is the tank which is actually in World of Tanks PC and was sold on April 1st, I was about to say 1917. World of Tanks Blitz is old. It's about 6 years old right now, but it's not 100 years old. It's 2017. After 6 years of not being ever sold other than in beta, this tank was available for one day only to the PC world, and everyone was very upset. But here on Blitz, we could get it in the Goose Tales event, and I was super hyped for this thing. So I just sort of couldn't wait any longer and skipped it. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Good thing come to those who wait, but I literally was so hyped to actually have this thing in my garage that I just couldn't wait to get more tier 10 missions done. And so, yeah, here it is. But anyway, what is this tank? Well, it's a tier 8 American heavy tank. And one of the very few American heavy tanks, premium, that are in the game. Other than the T-34, obviously. As for what it's like, well, let's have a look. 60% protection, 54% firepower, 97% shot effectiveness, 32% maneuverability, compared to the T-34, which gets a 70% protection, 58% firepower, 97% shot effectiveness, 31% maneuverability. So T-34 has actually got slightly more survivability due to the thicker turret armor. But the firepower is exactly the same due to the gun, which we'll get onto, and the maneuverability is slightly better on the M6A2E1 Experimental. But let's have a look here. 1500 HP, which at Tier 8 is not that great, really. T-34 Independence actually got a buff, or, well, the T-34 itself actually got a buff in hit points, so it now has 1600 rather than 1400, which I was very happy about. But KV-5, that's got 1600, yeah. IS-3 Defender's got 1550, the Glacial 112 has got 1500, Tiger 2 has got 1600. Yep, 1600 for the Tiger 2, and the IS-6 has got 1470. So it's in the pretty low end of hit points at Tier 7. But the armor, however, is pretty good. 191 at the front, 191 at the front of the turret and hull. Plus, look at that sloping. That's a very flat sloping angle, which means that you've got about 210, 220 maybe frontal hull armor, which is pretty good. It's better than the T-34 Independence, which, although it has got some decent frontal hull sloping, it's only 101 thick, so not that great. However, turret it does lose out due to 279 frontal turret for the T-34 Independence, whereas this has only got 191, but that's still pretty good. Plus there's some sloping, which means that you have to sort of hit it directly on frontally in order to actually penetrate through, otherwise it'll most likely ricochet off. As for the sides and rear, however, 44 side, 41 rear armor, 89 side turret armor, 208 rear. And the 208 rear is just plainly because this is ballast to offset the giant gun, which is the same as the T-34 gets. So that's why your T-34 has got ridiculous rear armor. 203 because that's all just solid metal ballast, which is, well, yeah, just ballast to offset the giant 120mm gun that's mounted in the turret. So that's why these two tanks have got exactly the same rear armor. Or, well, that's why they've got massively good rear armor. In fact, the rear armor is actually better on this thing than the frontal armor, which is quite funny because, well, better rear armor than frontal armor. That's a bit strange. But anyway, one thing that you will notice is that this armor is exactly the same as its little brother at Tier 7. 191, 44, 41, 191, 89, 208. And that's because it's basically the same turret. This has got a little cupola there. I'm not sure whether its Tier 8 friend has it. He does. Okay. But either way, it's basically the same turret, which is why they're exactly the same in terms of that. As for the engine, they both get the Wright G200 M6A2E1 GC5. God, do they? Better check. Yes, they do. So, yeah, they both get exactly the same engine. However, this tank weighs slightly more, 68.5 instead of 67, so it weighs about 1 ton more. But that doesn't really matter because they both have got the 960 horsepower engine. They both have a 29 km/h speed limit, 25.34 traverse speed, 24.5 turret traverse. So they're both pretty much exactly the same in terms of maneuverability, which is good. But even so, it's still not that great maneuverability. As for the turret, M6A2E1 D4, 225 meters view range, yeah, nothing much in other interesting stuff there. As for the suspension, M6A2E1 HVSS, which has got a 70.5 ton load limit, which means that you can play around with equipment and whatever else you want and still have room to spare, so that's good. 25.3 degrees per second, yeah. But now we come to the gun, which is a 120mm T53A1 gun. And just to compare to the T34, that also gets a 120mm T53A1 gun. So the guns are going to be exactly the same in stats with the T34 or the T34 Independence, depending on which one you have. But this gun has got a 4.74, I messed up my numbers there, but 4.74 rate of fire rounds per minute, compared to the T34's 5.08 rounds per minute, which is a bit unfortunate because it means that the T34 has got a 12.7 rounds per minute, which means that this thing's going to be having about 14 maybe reload time, sorry, not rounds per minute, but the T34's got a 12.7 about. This is probably going to have about 14 or so. Haven't actually had a game in it because, well, I was so hyped that I played like for a couple of days and then just sort of skipped it because I couldn't wait. But yeah, this is going to be a longer reload time, which means that the DPM is not going to be that great. It means that you are going to be vulnerable, but you may have slightly more survivability perhaps than the T34. But the average penetration exactly the same: 248 with AP, 297 with APCR, 60 with high explosive. Average damage 400 or 515 with high explosive, so yeah, decent penetration and average damage. 0.32 accuracy and 5.5 second aim time. The aim time is better than the T34. As for the accuracy, it's exactly the same basically. So it's still a very accurate 120mm gun with a slightly better aim time than the T34, and well, yeah, that's all of the soft stats of the gun that we have right now. As for the rounds, it doesn't carry as much as its little brother down at tier 7 here with the M6A2E1, which this carries 60, this only carries 40, but that should still last you the game since the T34 only carries 34, and in comparison the IS-2 carries 28, so it's still passable. You will still have a plentiful amount of rounds to carry you through the battle, I would say. And of course, you can mix it up with high explosive and APCR if you want. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Go away. There we go. As for the equipment fit, ventilation, rammer, and gun main drive are probably what you'll want there. You could go with a vertical stabilizer if you want, due to the perhaps slow turning turret, so it may be useful there, but for snapping off turret shots. But I think these three are more useful. Enhanced springs, 30% suspension durability if you don't want your tracks to keep getting blown off. Tanks filled with CO2 and wet ammo rack in case you keep getting ammo racked or set on fire, then you've always got that if you want. Camonet and binos, well, this really is a heavy tank. It's sort of the anti-side scraping, and unlike its little brother, which has got pretty terrible actually accuracy, as you can see, 0.39 accuracy, this has got 0.32 accuracy, which means that a bino camonet loadout to make it a sniper may not be that bad of an idea, because you'll have good armor for range, well, even better armor even at range than being an assault tank. Plus, you've got an accurate, powerful 120mm gun, so it may not be a bad idea to fit gun rammer and to fit Camanet and binos if you want, but I'm going to be using this thing as a heavy tank since the armor is very good, so yeah, I'm going to keep it like that. But you could do with that if you don't want to, but you want view range increase, then you've always got coated optics, so I mean, there's that. Spore liner, no, who really fires high explosive at tier 8 really? The only time someone's going to fire high explosive at you is when you've only got like 10 HP left and the splash damage would kill you, so I would say no to spore liner, and then the toolbox is just always something useful to mount. As for provisions, you've obviously got standard fuel and improved fuel for +3 or 10% respectively to engine power turret reverse. Then got can of cola and case of cola for +3 or 10% respectively to crew mastery. Then you've got protective kit, 15% to protection of crew from injuries, 10% speed and module repair, 20% fire protection, 10% ammo and fuel tank durability. So yeah, you've got them, you can mount them if you want. I generally don't mount provisions, but if you want to, then you've always got your provisions. As for consumables, first repair kit, first aid kit, fire extinguisher. For the 3 basics, then you've also got engine power boost, 20% to engine power for 15 seconds. Then you've got adrenaline, 20% to load speed, 10% chance of damaging enemy vehicle modules for 15 seconds with a 75-second cooldown. Then you've got the multi-purpose restoration pack, which extinguishes fire, repairs all damaged modules, and heals all crew members. And the reason that I go with the 3 of these, which if you watched any of my other reviews you'll know what I'm about to say, but if not, then say you've got your engine power boost, adrenaline and multi-purpose restoration pack, so you've got those 3 things mounted and you get tracked out in the open and you need to get out of there. So you burn your multi-purpose restoration pack and you motor away. Then 10 seconds later you get hit again and set on fire. What do? You can't put it out because you've burnt your multi-purpose restoration pack. That's now on an 80 about second cooldown. So you can't use that and you'll keep burning, which is why I prefer to go with the standard first aid kit, fire extinguisher and repair kit, because it just allows you to have a slightly more survivability perhaps than if you had just the one multi-purpose restoration pack. But anyway, there's that. As for the crew, can't say much because Blitz does crew skills differently, so I can't say much about that. And then camo, of course, is down to your discretion. I mean, I think Ghost looks better on the little brother down here because it has this little thing on the mantlet, and I just think it looks really, really cool like that. But yeah, so there is the M6A2E1 Experimental. Haven't been in a game in it because, well, nobody's going to be driving around in this thing, and I'll be called, like, you know, gold noob or whatever. But I don't care because I like this tank. But yeah, eager to actually get into a game in this thing, see how it performs. It should perform decently as a heavy tank. It's got a powerful 120mm gun, decent frontal armor, side and rear not so much. It really is the anti-side scraping tank because by doing about that much will kill you. Plus the turret, plus the side of the hull and the side of the turret to the extent. If you've got yourself like that coming around a corner with the building here, as you come around the corner like this becomes a weak spot because, well, from the front here, you've got the 191 here, and then also these are slightly sloped, which means that these are slightly more difficult for them to penetrate through. However, as you go like that, something like that, these become flatter and thus less armoured because they're less angled, so people can easily penetrate through there. And then, of course, the really weak side armour, which means that this thing really is the anti-side scraping tank, because if you do that, things will just penetrate straight through your flimsy side armor. So yeah, there's that. But it's got some nice cosmetics on it. It's got the, of course, bedroll, the log little thing here. I think that's got tools in it, although I'm not sure. But then you've also, of course, got the tools on the back. Of course, little brother doesn't quite have that much because, well, it's only the little brother, but big one. It's got nice, you know, fuel can on the turret. Just little things which makes the tank look nicer, I think. But anyway, so there's the M6A2E1, the mutant, as it is often known to in the EU community, but in the RU community, it's known as the goose for some reason, because of the turret. I think it looks like a goose tail or something, I'm not too sure. But to us, in the EU community, it's known as the mutant or the alien. And so that's what I'll be referring to it as, most likely. If not, then just its full name, M6A2E1. But anyway, that's the review. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.